weird stuff going on the show tonight. Hopefully everything's fixed up. We'll go to the callers. Let's bring them in. Area code 785. You're live. Third Phase Moon. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I want to say I like your show. I've been watching it for a while now.
Thank you.
I'm out here in Kansas. I was living in Tennessee, in East Tennessee. And me and one of my ex-girlfriends, we was driving from Knoxville. It was like around maybe 11:30, 12 at night. And we was going back home to Kodak, Tennessee. And as she was driving, she seen something in the sky, and she told me to look up. And when I looked up, I seen three little glowing lights. It was like in a triangular shape. And it was just weird because when she pulled over, not even a minute later, we was going to try to take a picture of it or record it. And when she pulled over, it was just gone. It was gone.
Yep. You got to be quick sometimes. Sometimes the window of opportunity is very slim, and to have that camera ready, sometimes it takes a quick hand. Hey, thanks for the call. Where was this witnessed and when?
This was in Knoxville, Tennessee. It was maybe 3 years back. I'm not for sure what day it was, but I know it was a few years back, maybe like 3 years back. And that was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, man. Okay, let's. We've gotten videos over the past few years from Knoxville, and it seems like Tennessee is a UFO hotspot. UFOs are on the rise right now. UFO sightings. It's a record-breaking reports of UFO sightings this year. It's on the rise. Why? Who knows? All right, more calls. Thank you, caller. Area code 216. You're on the show.
All right, brother. Hey, how's it been, man?
Doing good. Where are you calling in from?
216, Cleveland, Ohio. I was on the show with you not too long ago. Sorry about that. I got my baby and stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Despite of everything, and I've tried to, I'm believing. Hold on real quick.
All right, maybe we'll get back to you in a bit. Maybe let's bring in other callers. 801. You're live. Hi.
Hello. Hi, Blake.
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good.
I'm a fan of your show, calling from Utah.
Oh, thank you.
And I have just a history of experiences with interdimensional beings and also the Greys. When I was
really in Utah.
Yes, in Utah. There's a lot of activity here because we have the Dugway and all of that. The
sure.
Dugway proving ground with the area, whatever. I guess it would be 51 over there, and I have a history through the years of traveling back and forth from Utah to Las Vegas. My first child was born in Utah. My second child was born in Las Vegas. And first husband, I lived in Las Vegas. So we'd go back and forth, And then second husband I married was from Las Vegas. So, but just to kind of give you a little background here.
Sure.
When I was pregnant with my first child in Utah, I woke up one night and I was just screaming with my husband. I'm like, there's somebody right there. There's somebody standing right there in the doorway. And I could see what looked just like a gray, but at the time I didn't know they were grays, and watching us sleep. And it was very, very weird and scary. And, we just talked about it and kind of laughed at the time. But then with that baby, my baby was about 15 months old, and I was driving in one of those little, it's going to date me of how old I am, but the Honda Civics when they were just little tiny like BMW minis? Well, you wouldn't because you're so young.
Yeah, well, maybe I did. I had one. Somebody called it a pregnant roller skate. It was ridiculous.
Well, they were really small cars, and
they were.
Baby. Yeah, and my little baby was, in the car seat in the back there, and I was driving around the Utah prison. I don't know if you've ever been into Salt Lake, but there's a point of the mountain, we call it, where guys.
As a matter of fact, I lived in Utah for a while, and when I was driving into Utah, I noticed a big building over there on the left-hand side of Utah. We were opening up a small business, young, trying to entrepreneur. So we went out to Utah and opened one up. And when we arrived, the police were onto us for some odd reason. I guess they saw we had California plates. And I asked them, hey, what's that big building over there on the left-hand side over there on the freeway? He says, oh, that's our state prison. Do you want to go visit it? Well, whatever. We didn't have the most warmest welcome in Utah. But then we met some really neat people afterwards. But go ahead.
Oh yeah. There's really a lot of nice people in Utah. But I mean, that prison there, I was driving with my little baby in the back seat, and at the time I was probably 26, 25, driving towards. I was going south on the freeway, and I was following a big truck, and then on the big truck were these chain link rolls, huge chain link, and the thing unclipped. And both of those things came rolling off and rolling towards me in my little car with my baby, okay? And I'm telling, my mom, this story, and her husband at the time, he said, when I told him what happened, I said, those things were coming straight at us, and they were just lifted off the ground and moved. They were in the same lane. I was close. And I learned at pretty young age not to follow behind trucks with those kind of things anymore. But this is weird because, the interdimensional beings that I talk about now, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like an angel or something. But it's going to sound so weird to you. But this big, ghost type, that would look like, like E.T. when he said phone home and his little fingers were long and weird like that in the movie E.T.
Sure, E.T., yes.
Yeah, this big thing came almost like a wind, and it was like a hand, but it didn't have, the 5 fingers or anything. And it was interdimensional because it wasn't solid matter or anything, and pushed the chain link right off to the side of the road. And I was fine with my baby. We were fine. So
you had a divine interdimensional being basically save your life.
Yeah, save us, honestly. And so I didn't put together, because I was young, and at the time I was very spiritual always because, I was raised Lutheran in a Mormon state. But my dad was one of the only Lutherans in the whole state, I think. But anyway, so I was raised, in the Bible, so I'm thinking, well, maybe that was an angel at the time, But then, fast forward, I'm divorced from that husband, and I'm marrying my second husband that lived in Las Vegas and still does.
Okay.
And anyway, so I'm getting married. It's going to be March 23rd of 1997. I'm getting married, so I'm traveling back and forth, from Las Vegas to Utah, Vegas, trying to plan the wedding and stuff. And so this is so weird. Henderson, Nevada. I don't know why nobody talks about this, but that Phoenix Light episode started over Henderson, Nevada, in the broad daylight, and I witnessed it. I was living, our house was on Palatine Terrace, which is Green Valley, Henderson, Nevada, Green Valley area, and I always, kind of drag my feet when I was supposed to go back to Utah because I was with my future husband, and I have to drive back to Utah and kind of go back and forth because I was moving there. And it was about maybe 6:30 at night, and I'm coming down off the hill, and I'm going to go on I-15 north to head to Utah. And I see this giant thing over. It looked like it was over downtown Vegas to me, but, you know, and it was the V, the big V-shape thing that everybody talks about. And on your show, I heard one guy say that he saw this giant thing that looked like a Walmart in the sky. That's what it looked like. I mean, I absolutely took everything in because I was driving towards I-15 from probably Eastern Avenue. I'm driving out of Green Valley towards I-15, and I'm looking at this big thing over the city. And when you think about Las Vegas, I mean, during the MGM Grand, remember that fire, people were still gambling across the street. People don't look up. People can be jumping out of buildings, and when people are gambling, they don't look up. They don't notice anything, okay? So, but I live there, so that's what I'm doing. I'm looking at this big giant V over the city, and I can go in, so then I'm going north, and when you're going north on I-15, there is nowhere that you can really get out of the car and pull over. And it's 1997. I mean, I think I had a beeper. I didn't have a phone or anything, you know. So I'm driving north on I-15, and I pulled off at about Craig Road, where there's like a racetrack, the Hollywood track, and I was able to pull over. I got out of my car. So this is about maybe 20 minutes of time. I'm still looking at that thing. So I get out of my car, and it's like broad daylight. There's not a cloud in the sky. I look around, and I see this V in the sky hovering, no sound, not very high up, about 10,000 feet up. And I took it all in. I was like, well, is this a boomerang or is this a V? I was trying to figure out. And I could see, you know, the blue sky up the middle. It was like illuminating. And I was thinking there weren't any windows. It wasn't like a silver, you know, metal or any of that stuff. It was so huge, and it was illuminating like if you were in an ocean and you were in the water and you're looking at a jellyfish in the blue ocean, and you can see this jellyfish, how they are with the light shining through the water. You know, it kind of looked in the sky like illuminating two-story big V. I decided it was more like a V than a boomerang. And so this was 1997. And so then I didn't hear anything. I see this thing just kind of like floating or whatever, maybe 3 stories, 4 stories high, no windows, nothing like that, just kind of beautiful colors. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, so there, you know, on this thing, there must be, like, interdimensional beings because there's nobody solid that's going to be on this thing, you know. So I really thought at the time, in 1997, that I was seeing through a dimension. I was like, well, wow, am I the only one that's seeing this? So I started to look around, and Blake, like, I look over to Nellis, like probably would be anyone's instinct, you know. Did this come from Nellis Air Force Base or what's going on? And it had to be like 10 football fields big. It was huge. They could see up the blue sky through the center part of it and blue sky all around. And all of a sudden, when I'm looking at over to Nellis Air Force Base, I look back and it's just gone. It's gone. And I'm like, what? I look all around everywhere. It's just disappeared. So it didn't fly off or anything. It just disappeared. And then we learn years later about the Phoenix Lights the same night. And I have heard a couple of people that have said that they saw this over Henderson in broad daylight. So for me, it was probably around 7 o'clock. What my habit is to leave around 6 o'clock Vegas, drive to like Utah, maybe 5 hours into Utah, Mesquite, or get into St. George or up towards Cedar City, Beaver, and I would stay in one of those towns and then drive in to Salt Lake in the morning. So I had a late start. And so when they say that they started to see the Phoenix Light, big V-shaped thing, you know how you have the lights that show and they just are in one little streak of lights. Every time I see that, I think, well, that's only one side of the whole thing. Because it doesn't look like a V-shape when you look at the Phoenix Lights, you know, past documentaries and things. There was a USA Today picture of that big, giant thing, and it was on the USA Today paper, and it was a V, and that really is more what it looked like, but only very thick. But it was so like illuminating that I looked at that and I thought, okay, so interdimensional beings or, you know, something like that has to be on that thing. It's not. So that's when I realized that when I was saved, that there were probably interdimensional beings. And when I saw this thing, like, I wasn't scared at all. It didn't scare me at all. I don't know why.
Well, what I like about this is that there's more insight to the mysterious Phoenix lights, and now it sounds like the origin was from origin of this massive craft was from Nevada, and this is a place close to Area 51. Could this craft come from the infamous Area 51? This is new news to me, new insight, a little bit of a new detail on whatever was seen over Phoenix in 1997. Sounds like definitely they have a correlation to be one and the same. Everybody, Blake Cousins, stand by. We got more callers. This is Third Phase of Moon. Phoenix lights, and the rest of its history. After the governor of Phoenix, Arizona, later came out a couple years later after he ridiculed the whole event in 1997, said it was ridiculous. Basically said, no, there was something going on, and he later came out and admitted that he didn't know what happened over Phoenix. But he was trying to basically cover up the evidence when he was governor. It was a weird story going on whatever happened over the hills over there. Now it sounds like this craft originated from the Nevada area. The woman said she saw it pretty much around 6:30 p.m. heading in that direction. Okay, now, if you've got something you want to share tonight, a UFO story, call in. The number is 347-934-0378, and press number 1 on your keypad or your touchpad, whatever you got. Press number 1. You'll be taken straight to the top of the call list, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. All right, everybody's pressing number 1 real fast. Wow, okay, people want to talk tonight. Let's bring them in. 641, you're live, Third Phase of Moon.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? My name is Dan, and
hey, Dan.
I'm in Chicago. Yeah.
All right, Chicago. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How you doing?
Pretty good so far. I've been to Utah. I've been to Chicago. Back when we were struggling, trying to be little entrepreneurs, fresh off the boat from Hawaii, and we got ourselves in the big city. It was quite exciting back in the day. How's Chicago doing?
Chicago's changed a lot. But, I've got this story I want to tell you because I grew up on the South Side, right? And, South Side of Chicago, you live in a house. We didn't have a lot of money. All the houses look the same. They're like row houses, cracker boxes, right? We all have small backyards with little chain link fences, right? And during the day, now this is back when I was like 10 years old, Blake, and I'm 57 now, okay? And you had a couple of callers that called in maybe a month or two ago, and one of these guys had talked about a story where he saw this entity, and when he looked at him, he saw the outline, but it looked like space on the inside of this thing, right? And after all these years, that triggered a memory that I had from when I was like 10 years old. So that was like in 1969, okay? And I blurted out on the phone to a friend of mine, a good friend of mine from high school. We talk all the time, and I told her the whole story. And I'm like, where the hell did that come from, right? But I remember it clearly now. And what happened, it was a summer day. And, we'd go out and we'd play all day long. We'd come home at night when the street lights came on. But for some reason that day, I came home middays, probably about 2 in the afternoon, sunny day, blue skies, and I just wanted to go to bed, right? I wanted to sleep. And this wasn't a dream, okay? Although it might sound like it's leading into a dream, it wasn't a dream. So I go into my bedroom, and in this house, and I got to tell you this right here, because it's important that you understand this for later in the story. When you walk into my bedroom, when you walk into my bedroom and you open the door swings to the right up against the wall, okay? And there's a little door stop, and you got like 3 inches between the door and the wall. And directly in front is the foot of my bed, okay? So when I'm laying in bed and the door's open, I can see straight out in the hallway. Now, I lay down and fell asleep instantly, and the next thing I knew is I was standing up and I was looking out the back window from the bedroom, and I'm thinking, wow, that's really strange. I'm seeing this, back then when the sun set, the sun was yellow, and when the sun set, it looked orange, all right? And I'm saying, why is the sun setting in my backyard? I see this big orange glow in my backyard. And then that's all I remember from that. And then the next thing you know, I'm laying in bed in a really weird position. I got my head up against the backboard of the bed, the headboard of the bed, on like a 45-degree angle, and the pillow is underneath the bottom part of my neck and the top part of my shoulders. And I'm looking straight ahead. What I'm looking at is I'm looking at the inside corner of the bedroom above the door where the wall meets the ceiling. Okay, that's where my eyes were fixed when I opened them. And I start to rotate my eyes in a clockwise direction. And I go from like where, 12 o'clock would be, and I'm going to the right. I'm going down towards 3 o'clock. And I notice that I can't look further down towards the floor. And I continue to go towards the 6 o'clock position with my eyes. It's at that time that I realize that it's only my eyes that can move. Okay? And so I look straight ahead, and my body is in this position, frozen, kind of like a person would be that's been in a coma for a couple of years. My wrists are curled out. My fingers are curled in. My elbows are curled in. My legs are curled up. My hips are curled up. I'm like almost in a fetal position, but a real awkward position where all my joints are bent. And then I realized, why is it that I'm drooling out of my mouth so bad? And my shirt's all wet.
And you've never had any epileptic seizures or paralysis of any kind throughout your life?
No, never. Never. I've always been a healthy person, you know, as a child and as an adult. And so I'm looking at this, my body, and saying, you know, what the hell? And then my eyes kind of look up, and I see this thing, all right? And the first thing I could think, okay, with a 10-year-old mind is,
Sure.
There's this thing standing between the door and the wall, okay? Like he's trying to hide behind the door, but he can't because the door opens up to the wall, and I'm looking straight ahead, right? And the first thing I thought was, you're not doing a good job hiding. I can see you. You're doing a really bad job hiding. And then I went out and woke up again, and I was pissed, man. It's like I wasn't abducted that I'm aware of, but I was apprehended in my own home as a child. And I was really, really angry to the point, and this is going to sound really weird, okay? But I'm going to say it because maybe, I don't know, maybe it isn't as weird as I think. But I was standing next to my bed, and my legs were spread about shoulder width apart, my knees were bent, and my arms were hanging down, almost like I was an ape or something, like a gorilla. And I had, my pillow was hanging out of my mouth, and I was jumping up and down, just really, really mad, thinking about how violated I was because of this little thing that was standing there. And after that, I heard somebody come in the house. It was my mom. She was coming home from work. And I was totally at peace then and completely forgot about the incident. And my mom said, "Why is your shirt all wet?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I didn't know anything." But this little thing, man, it was probably about 2.5 feet high. I could see everything from the head down to about mid-shin. Couldn't see the feet because the bottom of the bed was in the way for my vision. And I could see a head, I could see a torso, 2 arms, and 2 legs, like a miniature person. But the weird thing about it is, and at first I thought, wow, why is this thing dancing? But it wasn't dancing. What it was a vague outline of this entity. And inside, if you ever seen like real thick smoke? Almost like, you ever seen a video when they're like burning tires or something? And you see all this really dark black smoke.
Black toxic smoke, sure.
Yeah, black toxic smoke with some gray smoke mixed in, and it's real fluid looking.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was inside of this thing. And it was just moving inside of this outline. It wasn't even an outline. It was just, there wasn't like a line around it. It was like the smoke, and then there was the rest of the room behind him, right? The door and stuff. It was just.
What about the possibility that this is something paranormal? It sounds like you're witnessing some kind of phantom ghost, some kind of a wispy entity.
It could be. Like, I don't know. I don't have a clue, really. But, tie it back into what I saw in the backyard, where it's almost like there was this orange thing, and I thought it was the sun setting in my backyard, right? But now realize there's no possible way the sun would have set in my backyard.
And you were also placed in your bed in a weird position that it seemed like you're placed there.
Yeah, it's almost like I was placed there. But, why it is I was all curled up in some type of a position where I was completely frozen at the joints and, I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that my eyes could move, and that's all that can move. I was drooling from my mouth, and I saw this weird thing. I don't know if it's
So you say it definitely resembled a humanoid, and the thing was approximately how tall? About 2 to 3 feet tall. And the thing had this toxic smoke cloud that kind of developed its body structure. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it was moving. It was, but the cloud, it was very, very fluid inside of this, vague outline of this humanoid. Okay. But it was moving horizontally. This fluid motion was horizontal. It wasn't vertical or 45-degree angle going up like you would see smoke. This was moving horizontal.
It had a wind draft on it, pushing it to a horizontal direction.
Yeah, something like that.
That is, I've never heard of a description out there of a being of a wispy shape, black toxic smoke that resembles a humanoid, and the direction of this smoke is pushing into direction horizontally. Now that is weird. Was the edges of the body defined, or was it an apparition? Was it like kind of a?
Well,
transparent at the edges?
There was no clear edge to speak of. It was almost like this shape of the entity, and then everything in the part of the structure of the house behind it. Right? There was no clear cut line that showed here's where the arm is, here's where the head is. It was just shaped that way. So it was almost like this fluid smoke entity standing there. Okay, just like a person would stand there.
So
if I was to look at you,
how did it exit? Your mom came home. Did the thing kind of run off, and what happened afterwards? You didn't tell your mom about this?
No, I didn't tell her about it because I didn't remember it. All I remember is her asking me, "Why is your shirt all wet?" The only thing that happened between the time that this thing went away and then I saw my mom was I was standing up, jumping up and down like a gorilla. Okay, it sounds stupid as hell, but it's true, okay? I was jumping up and down like an angry ape, all right? And I had my pillow and my teeth hanging out of my teeth, jumping up and down. I felt so violated, and I couldn't understand why. That's what I remember.
That sounds more like an abduction, if you ask me, because it sounds like you were taken somewhere. You have something deep in your subconscious as a child, and you're darn right pissed off because you felt violated about being probably abducted, taken against your will, and who knows what happened. And plus, coming in contact with this entity being when you're but that would freak any young person, and I could understand that whole sense. That's an interesting story. Is there anything that you could close with this? And
well, I think the only thing I could close with is to say that looking out my back window, I didn't know if I was saying hello or goodbye when I saw this orange thing back there. Okay, so. Yes. That's it. That's all I remember, Blake. I've been wanting to call in for a couple of months ever since I heard this one guy talk about this. And
sure.
It's a real story. It wasn't a dream. It's a real story. It actually happened. I know it for a fact. It actually happened. You just know when you know, okay?
Well, absolutely. And I appreciate your story tonight because I think we've learned something tonight from your encounter. And do you still feel angry about it now, or do you feel like more like, hey, you're lucky to have this experience? How do you feel about it now over the years?
I don't feel angry at all about it now. In fact, ever since that time that I did feel angry, I haven't felt angry about it because I didn't think about it until just recently, like I mentioned, right? And then when I told the story to my friend the other night, it just came out like this. It was very fluid coming out of me like I remember it like it was yesterday. And then, I just wanted to call and open up to you and your audience because I'm actually hoping somebody else might have experienced something else and something might trigger them as well. because it might give me some understanding in the process, you know?
Oh, wow! That's what it's all about. Sharing people's stories, collaborating with other people out there that are experiencing the exact same thing. And without people sharing their stories, then you wouldn't be able to put two and two together. People need to find out what happened to them, why, and what's it all about. What's it all about? The questions are endless. Okay. What an interesting caller that was. We got more calls that are wanting to get in, so let's bring them in. They've been hanging on for quite a while. Let's see. Let's go to area code 661. You're on the show.
Hey, what's going on, Blake?
How's it going? Where are you calling in from, sir?
I'm from Palmdale, California, but I'm at work right now in Chatsworth.
Yeah. Oh, great. Are you okay? Is it okay if you call in while you're working?
Yeah, there's not a lot of old people here at work anyway.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to drop like a little insight. I know someone that works for Lockheed, and they were telling me a story. And he's up there in Lockheed. He has there's I think like 4 or 5 different top secret clearances, right? I don't know if you heard anything about that, but Lockheed has a few different top secret clearances.
Oh, yeah. As they're developing things for the military, they got a lot of scientists working over there. A lot of top secret stuff. And So this guy has some top secret clearance. What's he telling you?
Yeah, man, he's telling you some way off stuff. He's telling me that every year that they go renew their clearances is that they talk about like any technology that's been taken or anybody else is, reverse engineering their technology basically, like, other countries, Russia, anything like that. And he was telling me that one of them was a UFO, that Russia had took our technology of the reverse UFO that we had. Yeah.
Whoa. Let's just hear that one more time. Let's hear that again. That
basically that we had Lockheed has they already reverse engineered a UFO, and that every year they want to do the little meeting to renew their secret clearance. Is that they talk about like what technology other companies or other countries have taken or copied, and one of them he was saying that it was Russia, that they took our reverse UFO. Or he didn't say exactly, like he just said it was like a flying saucer type thing. Yeah, I just want to call in and get your idea on that and what you think.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm going to tell something that I've never told anybody on air, but take a look at this. I've been talking about when we're young kids trying to, make something of ourselves. We left the big island of Hawaii and went up to California and went up to Utah and Chicago. But while I was there in California, I managed to, right there in Southern California, I managed to get into Northrop. And Northrop, there was this door that was with heavy security and these digital pads that you would have to lock in a sequence of numbers to get into this Northrop facility. And while I was there, I noticed some of the employees punching in the numbers to gain access to the Northrop facility. And I overheard as they were punching the keypads, you could hear a tone. And the tone was, doo, 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 doo. The tone of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So guess what? I went up to the door after the people accessed the building, and I did the same thing. I accessed the code, and I made the tones of Close Encounters of the Third Kind on the touchpads. Doot, 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 doot. And then the door opened. So I proceeded into the building, and as I did, I walked into a massive hangar where there's these guys out there dressed in white. They were in full white uniform with mask and hoodies, and they're working on something that I could not explain. It was something that was going to go into outer space, or it looked like it was from outer space. I don't know what it was. But they looked at me, and I was way out of my element, and they said, "What are you doing here?" So I'm like, "Oops, wrong door." And then I proceeded to pretty much escort myself out of the Northrop facilities. And that was a long time ago. This was back in 1993 or 92. So, I was a kid back then, and it was quite exciting. But that was one of my stories about a military, Northrop. They do military projects. Quite exciting. It was, felt like I was witnessing something that I shouldn't be. I got another story for you quickly. I was in the Hughes Aircraft Development, the Hughes building over there in Los Angeles, right off the 405, if I'm not mistaken. I got into that building too. And what was interesting, when I was up on like the 10th floor, I walked into this office, and there was this guy working on a computer program, and what I was looking in front of me looked like something straight out of a science fiction movie. He was working on some design schematics for, it looked to me like a stealth bomber, triangular shaped. And the guy looked over his shoulder, and he says, "What are you doing over here?" And I'm like, "Sorry, wrong place." And then I immediately vacated the premises again. So I was looking at some weird stuff. I kept it to myself. This is all old stuff. But I'm sharing it to you now. Quite interesting. Everybody join me this Friday. I think I was about 20 years old at the time. Just trying to, we're out there going door to door selling things. This is how we got in. We're trying to sell things. Young sales guy trying to make some money, trying to, get ahead. It wasn't easy. A lot of hard times out there. But it was we had some great success afterwards. We were able to run a business and hire people and train people. But then the economy went really bad afterwards, after the Rodney King riots. So we left Los Angeles and came back to Hawaii. Anyway, we're going to take UFO stories coming up on Friday night. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Flash Chat Beyond the Omniverse. Bradford Blair, Devin Sturgeon, Flip It For You, the Green Bay Joe. We got Lisa Walker. Thanks, Lisa. Kayoko. We got Plump Winham, Watchdog, The Bone Throne, Lardanu, Planet Rising, Matt Elliott. I Just Listen. Thank you, guys. Spiraling 69 and Zarkov. Appreciate it, Zarkov. Everybody, keep your eyes on the sky. Stay safe. We'll see you Friday night. Thanks for joining me.